Now then, so in Masters Tokyo, PaperX have made top 3, which is really surprising considering the fact that they're playing with a stand-in called Cigarettes. Not only does he not have as much experience playing in the pro scene as Something or even Benkai, but he's also predominantly a GEKKO main, and his team just beat NRG. So what the hell happened? What are some of the cool things that this GEKKO player is doing? And we're specifically looking on Bind. We'll start with PaperX's defensive side. This is the heat map of where we typically see Cigarettes on the defense on this GEKKO. If we sort of look a bit more specifically towards the first 20 seconds, we can see that there's a bit more of a lean towards the B site. And this is taking data from their games against obviously NRG, DRX, and also Fnatic. This is typically where you're going to be seeing Cigarettes playing from at the start of a round. Most certainly when it comes to B in comparison to Devi, who's also on the Sky. These two like to play in this position. You've got some gameplay examples in the background where you see both the Sky Flash coming out to see if there's anybody there, and also GEKKO's Dizzy. Not only can they flash down B long to see if there's anybody there, but they can also throw the Sky Dog or the Flash through the teleporter to quickly catch anybody that might be towards A. It's an important part of the map that PaperX want to prioritize and keep control of, and that ability to get information is super impactful for them to work with. We see a play like this right at the start in their series versus DRX, using that initial utility towards B long on defense, and then also using not only the Sky Dog to go for the teleporter, but having the GEKKO following shortly just behind. You even see from the UI that GEKKO's Dizzy was used to get out of the teleporter in case anybody was still holding it close. Round 3 did have a bit of a different look from PaperX. They actually had the GEKKO over towards A, and that's because Cigarettes was very close to getting his ultimate online. PaperX even have a nice little strategy to use that ultimate on this bonus round. They have 3 plays towards A, just as DRX start to dedicate to this execute over on B, and they try and explode out of the teleporter off the back of the Thrash. It does actually detain 1 player on the side of DRX, and some damage is done. But also remember the fact that you can pick up this ultimate again, and that's something that Cigarettes does, but unfortunately the weaponry doesn't quite work out in this case, and DRX do pick up the round. But it's still a great example to show how impactful this utility can be, most especially when it comes to trying to take space and explode out of certain openings. We move on to round 8. It's a pretty rough buy for PaperX, but they still managed to pick up this round with a nice little set play. At this point in the round, PaperX have rotated the GEKKO away from B over towards A. We're expecting this execute to be coming in, and as soon as there's movement spotted from DRX over from short, this is where Cigarette's utility comes in mighty handy. Forsaken uses the Reckoning to slow down DRX as they try and go for this execute, but look on the minimap real quick to where Cigarettes is playing. He's behind the SUV, just outside of Lamps, and he throws out a Dizzy, and this Dizzy catches Buzz at the perfect time. Just as Buzz is about to go across this Viper wall, he gets flashed, walks out, and is taken out by Mindfreak. Cigarettes isn't done though. He actually moves through Lamps and throws down the Wingman to catch these players that are still trying to move their way through short, whilst the Reckoning is still going on. Mindfreak gets his second and is still able to survive and hold this off, despite the weaponry being a lot worse for PaperX in this situation. While Cigarettes only gets a 2k in this round, he also got 2 assists in a round where maybe PaperX shouldn't have picked it up. Round 10 is a nice little adjustment from DRX that comes through actually. They throw down this Fade Haunt now into this Octagon Garden position. It does cause a lot of chaos for PaperX in this round. We see Jing going out wide, peeking and getting killed. And this is a round that does go the way of DRX. But the response is almost instant from PaperX to round following. Round 11, they push out with 4 players down long, off the back of a Dizzy, off the back of a Sky Flash, and also the Stim Beacon thrown down from Mindfreak. You also have Forsaken, the only A player in this situation, thrown down the wall to isolate these players from DRX. And this is also a round that PaperX used against NRG a little bit later in the tournament, as if PaperX couldn't be any more explosive. Seeing as we're moving over to the NRG game, looking at round 5 on their defense here, we start to see again this Dizzy Sky Flash play on long, and just how oppressive it is to deal with. These constant flashes, this ability to stall, makes it very difficult for NRG to dedicate to a push here. Round 6 does see an ultimate used from the GEKKO. It doesn't really add too much impact, but it's something that I still wanted to highlight because of what Jing does here. This is again a round where the money is not great for PaperX, but they still turn it around. The Thrash comes in and it scares off these players from NRG to jump through the teleporter on A towards B. They think it's probably a lot more clear, but Jing's ready and waiting for them, and he does such a good job here at stalling the spike from being planted and yet again picking Paper X up around where they really shouldn't have been coming out the winner.
Showstopper crash, he's going to be dead, cleans up finesse, and the round victory is in the hands of Jing! A 4K to tie it up at 3-3.
In fact, here's another round where we see the Thrash used in a similar fashion. It's just a scary ultimate that in both the occasions of it being used here, stops NRG from planting the spike. And because of the fact that cigarettes can pick it up again, it again just sort of stalls the time from NRG that only have 20 seconds left before they can plant. It does go their way in the end, but the ultimate is definitely something that the pro teams have to respect. But we're not done yet. The attacking side also had a lot of cool stuff to show off, most certainly back in that series versus DRX. Round 15, for example, gives us a nice aerial view of everything that's going on. The first thing to highlight is the molly that comes in with this lineup. It goes all the way into Tetris, clearing anybody that's hiding behind those boxes, and then the dizzy to follow right up in the sky to catch anybody that might still be trying to play in on the site. This off the back of the harbor wall as well allows to isolate certain angles and areas of the site. Makes it very difficult for DRX to just stand their ground and stop the plant from going down. Add that with a wingman, yeah, this isn't a site that you're going to shut down the plant before it happens. And it also makes the post plants really strong for Paper X too.
Takes a fight to them, oh my!
Back in round 17, we see the pretty much same play, this time with a Reckoning and a Seekers, and we see DRX again really struggling to hold off in this space. Sure, they can back out into showers, but because of this harbor wall that's used here, it means that they can't really contest much, and Forsaken's quite happy to fight them in this case. But Paper X can also hit the B site, and they have some nice little setups for that one too. The first of which, you see this molly lineup, it actually goes all the way into gardens, so if there's any defenders playing in that position, they're going to have to skedaddle. This mixed in with the harbour wall and the cove that allows people to sneak out, means that there's a lot of space that they can contest and contain here. Unfortunately, the execute is stalled, and they have to go over towards the A site. Another Molotov that they like to use goes on actually to the top of Tube. Any players that are going to be in there are going to be hit by it, but it also does connect onto back site. In fact, if we go back to the NRG series, Finesse actually gets killed by this molly because he doesn't realise he's about to walk into it, especially with all of these harbour walls happening on the site. It's a great way to clear some of these angles, and then of course you have the dizzy that allows these players to jump out of hookah and explode onto the site. That mixed in with Ray's utility must especially is something that works massively well, like we see Jing do here in round 21. You also have rounds like round 22, for example, where Paper X have the thrash again, and the way that they're able to aggressively execute onto a site with the ultimate, and then use it to try and take more space and spawn, like we see here. There's no wonder the DRX are saving. There's nothing that they could do. The flanks have been watched, and it's just the fact that Paper X have not only that utility to take a site, but then also reuse it shortly afterwards to take a bit more space. It's like this agent was designed for Paper X to be exploiting. Honestly, whilst GEKKO wasn't super meta-breaking Giga strong, it was still nice to see the option being used and also being super impactful for a team like Paper X. I don't think the GEKKO is a broken agent that people haven't caught onto yet, but I do think there's a lot of promise and potential that this character can bring when players and teams start to invest into it a little bit more. We'll have to see just how well it does in the future though, but for Paper X, I think third place at their lowest is pretty good still, and I'm excited to see what they could do at the weekend. Thanks for watching, take care, I'll see you next time.